Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and welcome to this week's episode of The Knife Guy. So what are we talking about today? So today I thought it would be really cool, or just fun, maybe just fun for me, to go over 10 things that if I could go back in time and talk to myself as I first kind of started this journey into, the knife world and becoming a collector and an enthusiast and ultimately a YouTube content creator. If I could go back in time and tell myself 10 things, what would they be? I feel like we've all done this in our heads, and it's just like, man, it's more like, God dang, if I'd have known this, like, I wish I could go back in time and like warn myself, I mean, we do this with a lot of stuff, like outside of knives, for sure. But I do this all the time. I'm like, man, had I known this, it would have been totally different. But your mentality is different as you're going on the journey. And in a lot of ways, I mean, you have to remind yourself, really the only way that you end up exactly where you are, if you're happy where you are in this journey, whatever path you're on, the only way you end up exactly where you currently are is if your past self literally goes through exactly what you had gone through, right? So it's one of those things where there's certain things that you were like, I definitely am happy that I ended up going this route, but there are other things that I feel like would have been made easier had I, gone back or had I known this from the beginning, right? So whatever. I'm not here to argue about linear time or multi-dimensional or like the multi-universe theory or anything like that. I just want to talk about what I would tell myself. I have laid out on the table a handful. If you guys don't know, I'm a knife collector. I own, I think, 150 or so knives right now. These are some of my nicer ones. I feel like I've gotten to a certain point where I can call myself an extreme knife enthusiast. And I'm happy that I, am where I am. I want to hear what you guys have to say though. So down in the comments, let me know what you would go back and tell yourself, whether it's 10 things or just one thing, whatever. Let's start off here with, number one. And I think that this is something that we would all go back. It's not like, it's not even beneficial information. But this is something we could all definitely tell ourselves. And that is, you're screwed. You're screwed, buddy. Sorry. Bye. And you slip back through the portal. Absolutely. And I feel like subconsciously, when we make that first major purchase, we kind of know that. We kind of get that sick loom, like there's like a nasty, ominous something behind us going, you shouldn't do this, but you're doing it anyway, and you know what this is going to turn into. It's just true. It's just, there's nothing useful about this information. It's just accurate. We were all screwed from the beginning, 100%. Number two, this is a big one. And I feel like a lot of people will be surprised that I would give this advice, but this is true. I would give this to my past self, and I would also give this advice to anyone. If you can't afford it, don't buy it. If you can't afford it, don't buy it. How many times have you guys bought something? You're like, I definitely cannot afford this. Like, saying that I'm going to be eating ramen this month is putting it lightly. I'm going to have to make a 12-pack or whatever they can. Do they come in? I used to buy, the crates, like the 12 packs of ramen. And I'd be like, I got to make this last 10 days. Oh, man. Awful, But I remember a long time ago, like thinking, I definitely cannot afford this, but I want it really bad. Don't buy it. Don't buy it. Because all it's going to do is remind you how, like, what you gave to have it. Like, every time you look at it, listen, if you're watching my channel, this doesn't help at all. I realize the irony of this, right? Or the hypocrisy of it. If you are watching my channel right now and you know that you can't afford the thing that you want, right? And you have the opportunity and you're like, oh, if I let it go now, it's not gonna be. Don't buy it. Let me just tell you that right now. Relax. There'll be more stuff. right? If you can't afford it, wait until you can, because it feels so much better to make a comfortable, calculated purchase than a panicked, sweaty, freaking save, breaking the bricks of ramen in half so that you can make 2 meals out of them. I know you know what I'm talking about. Don't do it. It's not worth it. The amount of stress you put on yourself. It's not worth it. It's not worth a pocket knife. Come on, this is fun. We all love this, right? But holy crap, if you can't afford it, don't buy it. Number 3, materials definitely matter, but it is largely preference. And this is it's something that it seems so obvious to so many people, but all of us went through this thing where we're like materials, and we have like certain groups of materials that are absolutely or absolutely not acceptable at certain price tiers. And while that is still partially true, it is absolutely preference. And as you climb the ladder, you realize I really like this material so much that I would, if I was going to spend a bunch of money on a crazy custom knife, I would actually really like this material, even though a lot of people would argue that it doesn't necessarily belong in this price range if we're just talking about the material on paper. Just block that out. It does come down to preference. Obviously, there are a ton of elements. Materials alone do not equate to the overall value. There are so many elements, largely country of origin. The amount of time that it takes to create the object is the vast majority of the value. Certainly, you will pay more for certain names. You will pay more for, overly or things that are designed to be part of a group of collectible items, right? And people start screaming artificial scarcity, whatever makes you feel smart, right? That does exist. I'm just saying, if that's a trigger word for you, go ahead, right? Type up your big paragraph, but it's not really that hard of a concept to understand, and a lot more people understand it than I think the people who are preaching get, right? We get that, but back to my point, sorry, tangent. It's my trigger. Materials do matter, but it is a lot of it is preference. You don't go out of your way because you feel like, oh, I'm paying in this price range, I have to have this material. You'll find out. It is an inevitable end to every road. You will find out. You have your own preferences, right? So it's okay. Number 4, if you're new, this is a big one. If you're new, the number 1 most overused and meaningless term in the knife world is gas station knife. The term gas station knife no longer has meaning. There was a time where I would have said, I know exactly what people mean by gas station knife, right? And I feel like in the past it was a little bit more specific, but it was still pretty non-specific. It just means bladed object. That just means cheap knife you would find at a gas station. But as we all know, gas station knives take on an infinite number of aesthetics. What it means now is knife that looks expensive, but also I don't really understand entirely what I'm looking at, and the only thing that I can reduce it to is the type of knives that I've seen more often than anything else, which are knives at the gas station, or a colorful knife, or an overly tactical knife. It's within the eye of the beholder. A lot of times people say it when it's something that they know is expensive, but it makes them frustrated. The fact that it exists. A knife that doesn't look good to them, but is expensive. And so they're mad that this exists. How dare this exist in my world, right? So what they do is they reduce it and say gas station knife. That's something that very, very new people say, or people that are incredibly narrow-minded. And listen, if you feel like I'm talking about you and you feel like I've hurt your feelings a little bit, I want you to listen up. Get real close. Get real close. I don't care if I hurt your feelings. Eat a rake. Eat it sideways. Do you understand? The term gas station knife has no meaning. It can be applied to literally anything. Take my content, for example. I have 3,600 uploads. Almost every single knife that I have ever talked about has been labeled a gas station knife, not only on this channel, but in the entire knife universe. It's meaningless, and it's a term that is overused by people who don't have enough information to label things. That's all it is. If you're new and you get a knife that you think is really cool and you post it on Instagram, right? And some freaking local carnival clown comes up, in your comment section and says, "Don't like a gas station knife." They're nobody. They don't know what they're talking about. Don't sweat it. Number 5. He's in a bad mood today. You guys were saying that under another, let's take a quick break. I think it was a Good Fly company. I didn't realize that was Kunwu. So my washing machine broke on the day that I uploaded that, and I was absolutely in a bad mood. You guys definitely, you guys definitely called me out on that. I was like, why are so many people commenting? Because I record my content like a week or two in advance. I was like, why are so many people saying I'm in a bad mood? So I went back and watched the video, and I was like, this is the day the washing machine broke. I was messaging Sergio from Kunwu because I was like, I didn't realize that was your brand. And he was like, no, it's okay. And not that I would have said anything different had I known, right? But we were laughing about that. Yeah, you guys called me out on that. Number 5, this is also a big one. I think this might also hurt some feelings, but that's okay. Good taste is an entirely imaginary concept. And I know how many people are ready to argue with me, but I want you to hear me out, right? And then you can give me your argument. Remember, I'm just telling myself in the past. The narrative here is that I'm telling myself in the past here, but it's really a way for me to just project my thoughts at everybody, which is the same. It's the thin veil of this upload. I'm still just jamming my opinions down everybody's throat. Good taste is an entirely imaginary concept that people use to bolster their own ego. You need people to have the same taste as you and agree in order for that to be a reality. If you lived on an island with no other people, and that island was big enough to have enough different things that you could make certain choices and enjoy certain things and not other things that are more or less beneficial to whatever it is that you need to do, right? Well, let's say, personal embellishments, right? You don't get to say you have good or bad taste at that point because you require other people to be there to agree with you. Good and bad taste it's nonsense. Oh, yes, I see you have exquisite taste in the art of whatever, says this group of people who also enjoys the same thing. They end up being an incredible minority, usually a niche community, amidst other niche communities, that all of these other communities have entirely or either entirely different tastes or similar taste, right? But they'll all say in that group, oh, yes, you have good taste. Oh, yes, of course. The heathens across the pond, stupid swamp people, right? It doesn't mean anything, right? You can say that, and people who feel like really strongly, right? Maybe you have like a Discord group, you got a chat group. You're like, all of us have good taste, but all these other morons, right? There's a freaking bajillion other people who feel the same way, and they got their own groups, right? And they wear the weird little hats I always call them painter's hats. So the Peaky Blinders hat, right? Maybe you got a pocket watch, right? And you consider you and all your other pocket watch and Peaky Blinder hat buddies, you guys all have good taste, huh? Yeah. Well, you're ratioed by the amount of people who would say you have terrible taste, and that's the same with every other group of people anywhere who enjoy anything. Good taste is an imaginary concept. There's no reason to invest anything in it. It requires the reaffirmation of other people. People who you ironically don't really care whether or not they actually like it. I think this is one of the biggest problems with society in general, especially society on social media. And I'm not trying to blow anybody's mind here, but we all absolutely require the reaffirmation of other people, and at the same time, we don't actually care about it. We want to be told we have good taste just so that we could turn around and, initially pretend not to care and then actually not care because your attention span is too short. Good taste, I'm sorry, I'm getting way off topic here. Good taste is meaningless. If you like what you have and you think it looks good or you enjoy it for whatever reason, fine, right? And everybody needs a little bit of reaffirmation here or there. I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm just saying, don't weigh too heavily, right, on your own opinion of what good taste looks like, and don't weigh too heavily on what other people's opinion on what good taste is. That's nonsense. Number 6, you don't have to convince anyone, which is literally just it's literally just kind of a double team with number 5. You have no responsibility to convince anybody of anything, right? If you like something, you don't have, it doesn't like, whether or not other people think it's good, it's not required for you to enjoy it. It's not like, oh, this knife isn't cool unless I get 100 likes on Instagram, right? Or unless the next 10 people, right? If I bring this knife to work, I got, maybe you're lucky and you got a bunch of knife buddies at work, right? Yeah, you got 4 knife buddies at work? That's rare, right? It's rare to have 1 or 2. Say you got 4. I need all 4. I need Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I'm kidding. I need them all to be like, wow, sweet, right? There's always one, Mark. Mark's never impressed, right? I need all of, who cares? Who is Mark? Who is he, right? Fine, whatever's going on in his life is fine, but you don't have to convince him. You don't have to convince whoever, right? It's up to you. If you like it, right? Number 7, this is also a big one. Don't sweat the missed opportunities. Look, the number of knives that I missed last month was insane. I think I missed like 6 knives that I wanted to get. I keep joking that I've been trying to get the button lock VECP, and every time it's about to drop, there's a little, there's a brief moment where I go, I could be selfish and not tell anybody about this and make my odds better. And I don't do that. I still let you guys know, right? I put it up on the community tab, and I let an extra 5,000 to 10,000 people know that it's going to drop. And some people get mad at me for that. And to those people, I'd say, again, hey, I'm sorry you're mad, but eat a rake. I don't care. Everybody should know, right? So I do that, and it makes it harder for me to get it, and then I miss it, right? I tried 2 times in a row. I couldn't get it. Don't sweat it. Because, listen, now, even back then, 10 years ago, 15 years ago when I started doing this, there was a certain level of difficulty that was associated with acquiring the things I wanted. I still got enough of what I wanted that I was very happy, right? And you know what? Guess what? A lot of that stuff is gone because I ended up trading it or selling it anyway, which is what a lot of you will do with that stuff once you acquire it. It's just part of the game. It's what happens, right? But don't sweat it. There's something else right around the corner. In the 2023 knife world, it's literally 10 seconds from right now, 10 seconds from the moment that you miss. You're like, no, I camped on this website and it's stupid scalpers and bots and whoever else you want to blame it on. And you sit there and you seethe and you moan and you whine and you cry. 10 seconds later, you'll be fixated on something else. And that's just the truth. There's so much, right? You have to think of it as this money that I had prepared for this thing that I want, right? And I didn't get, all this is an opportunity to buy something that I might enjoy even more. And I cannot tell you how many times that has happened. I missed something I thought I wanted, only to turn around the next day or a week later, something drops and I go, holy crap, I am so glad I missed that because now I can get this, right? Doesn't always work out that way, but yeah, sometimes. Number 8. You didn't overpay for it if it makes you happy. And that is a universal truth. Period. There's no more invincible bubble of knowledge than that. And there's no shortage of people who will fight tooth and nail to disprove what I just said. But the truth is you didn't overpay if it makes you happy, right? You don't have to tell people what you paid. But the secondary market exists, and I'm not it's like even the apple, sometimes it's just a really shiny apple and you're not supposed to take a bite of that apple. The instructions were very clear. Don't eat the apple. But sometimes you just go ahead and take a bite anyway because you want it, right? If it makes you happy, you didn't overpay. But if you're sitting there looking at it and you're forcing a smile on your face, and you're looking at your bank account thinking, then you overpaid, right? Sometimes it actually comes down to that. Yes, there are systems in place that, it's a collective effort from the community, but we all kind of generally try to dictate what is a good purchase and a bad purchase, right? But there are so many factors that can make that teeter-totter go up and down. If it makes you happy, if after the transaction is done and over with, and you receive it, you look it over and everything's fine, and you hold it and it's everything I wanted. Or better yet, it's more. It's everything and more. What you spent on it no longer becomes a factor. It's gone. It's in the past. All you're left with is the joy of that thing, right? If that's the case, then at the end of the day, you did not overpay for it, right? That's what it comes down to. Number 9, some of the best knives on earth aren't very expensive. I think this is something that a ton of people who don't watch my channel would never expect me to say. And if they don't watch my channel and they just heard me say it, they would never admit that they heard me say it because it goes against their idea of what this channel represents. That's the truth. As somebody who has spent multiple thousands of dollars on pocket knives, many of those knives are actually out on the table right now. I am more than willing to admit, I'll scream this from the mountaintops, some of the best knives on earth don't cost very much money. Some of the best knives on earth cost less than $50, and that's the truth. In terms of utility, longevity, right? Just general bang for your buck. And, as somebody who enjoys crazy, ultra wild custom knives, yeah, you can still get that level of enjoyment out of a sub $50 knife. If you're worried that you're going to turn into some crazy, itchy, seething goofball, right? The pictures that are painted by people who don't know better, those pictures are not reality. Those pictures are painted solely by people who have never actually climbed the ladder. They're just watching everything through a rectangle and making assumptions based on nothing. Most of the people I know who love the ultra crazy expensive stuff are fully aware that a functional tool that you can still enjoy as a knife enthusiast and collector, they are fully aware that some of those things cost less than $50. That is a fact. It's just the way that it is. Number 10, this is the final one. Don't try to keep up. Don't try to keep up with anyone. There's no reason at all. Don't worry about trends. Don't worry about jumping on the bandwagon. This is for you. This is for you. Just because some idiot named Metal Complex is screaming, this is the next best thing. You gotta have this. Buy this right now. It's the best. If you don't buy this, you're not cool. Even if that idiot is yelling at you through your rectangle, right, that you have to do this, you don't have to do it. You don't it sounds like such obvious information, right? But you don't. For who? Again, for some likes on Instagram or for some recognition on social media, who cares? The best type of enjoyment that you can get from this hobby is the enjoyment that you get when you're just by yourself, when you're just sitting there. We've all done this, right? It doesn't matter if you're a hardcore, right? If you change the freaking oil on your lawnmower using nothing but your pocket knife, if you're that type of guy, you have still done this, and I won't hear any arguments otherwise. When we're just sitting there holding it, right? Holding it and looking at it and just appreciating it, man, right? Feeling out everything, listening to every click, right? Looking at every bevel. It's that enjoyment. It's that part of it. That's what it's a lot of times is all about. It's just the you and the thing, right? You enjoying it. Now, you're not requiring anything of anyone else. You're not needing to feel like you're part of a club or a group or whatever, right? You don't have to keep up. I think this is especially important to say to people who are younger or getting started with this, because it's very easy to get into this and feel like there are clubs, right? Or there's this elite sort of upfront, like, you got to be up there. If you want to be in the know, you got to be in there. You want to be in the inner circle. No, you don't have to do that at all. If you're like just jumping in and you're like, oh, wait, the Ontario Rat, that looks pretty cool. Oh, wait, there's a bunch of videos that say like, that used to be like a really good knife, but now it's like not considered pinnacle. Like it's not Metal Complex's top 10 GOAT list. So what? Who cares? Who cares? If you think it looks good, right? Buy it. It's a great knife, right? There's times it doesn't even need to be called great. You could literally just be like, all of this stuff is labeled as great, but I kind of like the one with the ninja on it and the blue flames and the skulls, right? But everybody calls those gas station knives. Am I not supposed to buy it? Who cares? Buy whatever you want, man. If it makes you happy, go ahead. Go ahead. You don't have to listen to anybody. You're not, there's no like cool table. And if there is, if any of you feel like there's a cool table, That is gross. Gross. Are you kidding? You want to do high school and middle school all over again? Yikes. Buy what you like, enjoy what you like. Ignore anybody who suggests that there's trends to keep up with or, cool tables to sit at. Those aren't the people you want to hang out with anyway, right? Those are the types of people who would insist that good taste exists and it only exists within their inner circle. Yes, at the pinnacle of the peak. No. Nope. I hope that this was entertaining. I hope that this was fun. This was fun for me. I'm sure I salted a few people's onions. I'm sure I boiled a few eggs. That's all right, because the comments are great for the algorithm. Let me know. What would you tell yourself, right? Or what part of this do you disagree with and why? That's fine. Let me know. All right. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.